A federal judge just issued a ruling that left many in America shocked.
The University of Pennsylvania has to turn over a list of members of the school's Jewish community to the federal government.
This is scary. There are obvious echoes of Nazi Germany, and there is definitely something bad going on here. This is bullshit, but the real bullshit isn't what most people were talking about. So here's what happened.
The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, or the EEOC, has been investigating whether the Ivy League school has had a hostile work environment for Jewish employees. The EEOC subpoenaed the school in order to find names, phone numbers, mailing addresses of members of Penn's Jewish community.
And obviously, this makes people extremely nervous.
It is important to understand the resonance of collecting names and personal information of Jews and identifying them as Jews and having the government collect that information.
It's a slippery slope. Giving too much power to the government can lead to future governments or bad actors using that information.
I want to be clear that I totally get why people feel this way. As a Jewish person, I feel it too. As the kids would say, this is creepy AF. But at the same time, let's be clear about what this ruling is not. And one thing it is not is Nazi Germany all over again. It is actually routine for the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission to seek names and contact information for potential victims and witnesses during an investigation. And courts have repeatedly allowed them to access even sensitive information. Again, I get the echo, but it's definitely a far cry from the Germany of 90 years ago. It's not even this.
Why aren't there any Jews on the show?
There are a lot of Jewish people on the show, including you.
Wow. In other news, local work blanket Colin Jost is keeping track of the amount of Jews at SNL. He's making a list and he's checking it twice.
The other thing this is not is totally groundless. It pains me to say this because virtually everything the Trump administration does has a corrupt motivation behind it, but it is true that there was a serious increase in anti-Semitism on college campuses at the start of the war between Israel and Hamas that very much included the University of Pennsylvania.
In recent weeks, reports of threats and violence against the Jewish community have increased on campus.
The Anti-Defamation League says in the past 2 months, there have been more than 2,000 reports of anti-Semitic behavior locally. That's 4 times higher than the number that they experienced this time last year.
My brothers don't even feel comfortable walking outside of our house wearing their kippahs.
After the president of the university tried to lawyer her way around an answer to what should have been a fairly straightforward question.
Calling for the genocide of Jews, does that constitute bullying or harassment?
It is a context-dependent decision.
She had to resign. The bottom line is, this didn't come totally out of nowhere. The bullshit is why this investigation is happening in the first place. Because what's really going on here is a performative campaign to target elite universities as part of Donald Trump's campaign promise to go after DEI and really any institutions that he could label as elite or liberal. That's why the Trump administration has been using this tool of the EEOC and workplace discrimination investigations to go after universities and using other tools like freezing research funding. It's all just about going after his enemies, and it's mostly worked. Most of the targeted universities have decided to settle rather than drag out lawsuits for years, and that's included Cornell, Brown, Northwestern, and Columbia. Although, in the case of his attack on the University of California system, a federal judge slapped the administration.
Remember that massive funding freeze impacting more than $580 million in UCLA science research grants? A federal judge says that money has to be restored.
Because it was so obvious that this was just a politically motivated attack aimed at bringing universities to their knees. The point is, the Trump administration is using actual incidents of anti-Semitism as a pretext for what they really want to do for political reasons, which is fight the culture war and tell their MAGA base that they're going after woke elites. And this is hypocritical bullshit for 2 reasons. First of all, no one's a bigger member of the corrupt elites than Donald Trump. That's the major thing we've learned from the Epstein files, which Trump appeared in more than 1 million times. There's no more elite club of rich people up to no good trying to get ahead at the expense of the rest of us than Trump and Epstein and that entire circle. Second, and much worse, if there's any institution that is definitely guilty of anti-Semitism and bigotry that should be thoroughly targeted here, it's the Republican Party under Donald Trump and his MAGA influence.
This morning, new fallout after the leak of racist text messages linked to members of young Republican groups across the country. The website Politico says it obtained 7 months' worth of messages from a group chat in which racist and anti-Semitic slurs were used more than 250 times. At least 8 of the 11 participants in the group chat are between 24 and 34 years old and include a state senator from Vermont and a federal official.
While the Young Republicans is a separate, incorporated political entity, it coordinates campaign activity with a Republican National Committee, and there's constant flow back and forth of people and media and messaging. These people are all in bed with each other. Donald Trump himself had dinner with Nazi apologist Nick Fuentes. How do you think the Jews working for the Young Republicans feel? Don't see any investigations of that for a hostile workplace environment. Which brings us back to the main point. There may be an actual pretext for what the Trump administration is doing, but make no mistake, it is ultimately just that, just a pretext. If they really cared about anti-Semitism, they don't have to go far to look for it. Just look in the mirror. The fact that they're weaponizing it as a political tool while ignoring it in their own house, that's just bullshit.